Hello everyone and welcome back to Southern Wealth. I hope you guys are doing very well. If you do enjoy the content, please consider dropping that like and subscribe. So quite the developments over the week as expected. We've been talking here in the channel about India for quite a bit of time, that this would be a golden opportunity for them to really become, if not the number one partner with the US, at least top three. And guess what? As we were discussing this over the past couple of weeks, JD Vance has gone to India for 4 days, and the first step towards a bilateral trade deal has been agreed. And the idea is that the negotiations will now move into pre-agreed terms, let's say. And now, as people say, the devil is in the details. So expect that full trade deal to be over by, I don't know, around September, October, but that's not the main concern. The main concern is the market needs to see where this trade agreement, number one, if these trade agreements are going to happen. Number two, if both countries fairly accept and are willing to move on certain terms. And number three, is there really a will to cooperate, yes or no? So the market needs some information. It doesn't need to see everything, but it needs something juicy to start pricing in things. And the markets reacted very well. Also, Trump lowered the rhetoric against Jerome Powell. As I've mentioned, is Powell political? Yes, he is, because he was cutting rates right into the election with worse data than what he has today, and now he's not cutting. So basically, Powell had two options. Either he was cutting into the election and he's cutting now, then he's consistent, or he's not cutting into the election and he's not cutting now. That would also be consistent. Cutting before the election and not cutting now is purely political. But I have voiced my concerns about the ability of the US government fighting the head of the Federal Reserve, the chairman of the Federal Reserve. And the reason is, I'm not so concerned with Trump, Bessent, and the others, but I'm very concerned if one day an AOC style of person gets elected with the power of the printer. Can you imagine what governments would do to make sure they would pump markets and economies right on the year of elections just to get elected? The level of moral hazard is terrible. So I'd much rather have, the Fed being political for a couple of months, but then kind of resuming to something else rather than having it fully political 100% of the time. Now, to me, what Powell has done and his inconsistency basically ensures that he will be out of a job when time comes to nominate a new person. But I am not in favor of opening up the can of worms of being able to fire the chairman of the Fed. You all know who I would have voted for if I was an American. That's true, but I'm not a blind follower of anybody. You see, because if this administration crashes and burns, but my crypto bags go to the moon in the meantime and I can retire, I don't give a shit. Sorry for the language, but I really don't care. For one simple reason. I'm going to tell you a little secret. European governments, Japanese government, the Chinese government, the US government, whatever party it is, they don't care about you or me or our families. They don't care. So my view is, let me get financial independence, because that gives me freedom. And with freedom, I can make choices. And those choices and my responsibility is to make correct choices, to make sure that I maximize my freedom, I maximize my ability to grow my wealth, and most importantly, that I don't deal with governments anywhere on the planet that I don't want to deal either directly or indirectly. That's it. So that's my focus. Now I could sit here and cry and moan about how I wish things would be, how I would do things different. That doesn't matter. I don't have the power to change it. So I'm very pragmatic. I do what I can with the information that I have today. Some things will be right, some things will be wrong. I hope the majority of things being right will be substantially bigger. Now, Japan seems to be closer in terms of a deal as well, although the news over the weekend were not that great. It seems that things are going a little bit better. And also there was some softer stance towards China, which leads me to believe that some of those talks are starting to actually bear some fruits. And then you have other countries which are entirely dependent on the US, so they will sign whatever. And think about countries like Vietnam, Taiwan, they will sign whatever. And then I think 34 countries will be in Washington this week. And the Canadian election is now 5 or 6 days away. So when that's resolved, I do expect some deals with Canada to be moving forward. Now, crypto pumped quite nicely, stocks as well. Yesterday there was a massive sell-off, but once again, people don't pay much attention. There was a massive sell-off with very low volume. That means that nobody is willing to take the buy side of the market. So you have a market, buyers and sellers. It's not like there's tens of trillions of dollars of sell pressure. Everybody's trying to sell. No, it's a few big players selling, and there's literally very few people willing to take the long side of that trade. So you don't need much to move the market. This is what I've been talking about, pockets of liquidity, air pockets. You know when you are in an airplane and you find these air pockets, and basically you kind of lose gravity and you slam like into a different position almost instantaneously? That's the same thing. So that's valid. So that's why you see these swings up and down so aggressive. There's nothing special about it. However, it starts to trigger people on the wrong side because, as I've mentioned before, people cannot take volatility. That's why the majority of people cannot make it in crypto. They cannot see 90% down stuff. Their brain can't comprehend. The pain is too big. They have to sell at the worst possible times and they have to buy at the worst possible. This is it. It's just their brain cannot be taught to handle that level of volatility. Now, when we see 3% up or 3% down days in the stock market, we in the crypto space laugh. Oh, that's like sometimes like 15 minutes on a day, right? I mean, I don't care. I don't even flinch for 10% anymore, so let alone 3%. But the stock market people are very different. Once again, some people say Trump caved, he is giving up, he is backtracking everything. Other people, the MAGA ones, will say, oh, it's the heart of the deal. He's playing 5D chess, he's manipulating and moving all the chess pieces across the board and nobody notices. My position is the same. Let's see those agreements. If any. So first step, we seem to gonna be having some agreements. Okay, good. Will they be better for the US versus what they have today? We'll see. If they are, great success. If they aren't, great failure. That's it. I've talked about this many times before. And it doesn't matter if you think it's nice, moral, ethical, it's irrelevant. He's looking at things from the American perspective. So let's say you're an European. Oh, this is not nice, we are allies, blah, blah, blah. Okay. For 30 years, Europe has been living for free out of the US protection. And with the money they weren't spending on defense, their politicians promised free healthcare, free education, free this, pensions at 55, all this crazy stuff. So from the point of view of the Americans, wait a minute, you've been freeloading on us for 30 years, never abiding by your commitments and agreements, and you think we're just going to forget all of it, and we're not going to make you pay for the things that you haven't spent your money. And worst of all, to save a few bucks, you prefer to buy energy from historically a country that you are in conflict from time to time, instead of buying from us, your number one ally. Is that fair and moral? Not from the point of view of the Americans. So what are we talking here? Oh, Japan, you like selling your Toyotas in the West? Sure. Sell it all here, no problem. Oh, we would like to sell some stuff in your country as well. Oh, what are all these barriers? I thought we were friends. Is that fair? Oh, China, you devalue your currency on Tuesdays. You steal all our IP. You dump products because the state subsidizes your companies. Is that fair? You see, these conversations about being fair, moral, ethical, it depends on where you are in the equation. Think about what's happening right now. What have I been talking about? The only thing really concerning me, the issue between US and Iran that nobody talks about. Right? Everyone's saying tariffs. My experience is when everybody's looking at something, that's rarely the thing that destroys you. The thing that destroys you is the thing that nobody's talking about. And to me, the Iran problem is much bigger. Now, the first conversation is good, the second was good, and the third one is being scheduled for this week. I think Saturday. So, so here we are. The Israelis were ready to, go full force. The US has tried to put a stop on it, to make a deal, and basically have peace. Here's my question. Where is Europe? Where is Canada? Where is Japan? Where is Korea? Where is the Saudis? Where is the UAE? Why is the US the one negotiating this? See my point? You can't criticize the US and then wait for them to guarantee your peace. Either you're strong enough to do it yourself, then you can criticize, or you don't criticize and you keep your mouth shut as long as you live on the back of someone else. It's really that simple. It doesn't matter. I'm not an American. I don't benefit from anything in the US. If they go and they cut taxes to 0% tomorrow, it means nothing to me. If they become the number one powerhouse with AI and crypto and all of it, means nothing to me. I don't live, with the crypto side is different, but I don't live there. See what I mean? But you need to look at subjects from both sides of the equation. That's my point. Now, people say, oh, crypto's decoupling. Crypto is following the global M2 with a lag of about 100 days, as it always does. I've been saying, one of these days, we're going to start catching up with global M2. In the US, liquidity is almost at all-time highs again. In China, it has exploded. In Europe, it has exploded. Central banks have been cutting rates left and right and the other, but there's a delay before you see that in the price of crypto. The fundamentals are all in play. They are all been set up already. But the price action was not yet reflecting what was happening in the market. So the price was still not reflecting the fundamentals. Why not? First fundamentals, then price action, then a narrative is created. But you see, when I'm talking about this, I'm talking about this when prices are going down. And you go on Twitter and all these experts are saying 60K Bitcoin tomorrow or next week. And then the bottom is already in. We've been consolidating and we're finally starting to break out. And what are we doing? Catching up to global liquidity, to global M2 again. Just like we caught up in the first quarter on the downside. But, again, people just can't see it. Yesterday I saw something extremely good. And I'm not gonna let him off the hook the entire cycle. Crypto banter, Renuna, said, why should I hold ETH? I'm selling all my ETH. I'm done with ETH. Finished. I'm gonna sell the remaining of my ETH into Solana or Sui. I'm done. Ever since he made that live stream, ETH has done nothing but gone up. I can promise you, because I know how this guy works. In a few months, if ETH is at like 8,000, he's going to be saying, no, I never sold ETH. No, I always liked it. It was just, it's a slow start, but ETH, of course, it's gonna do very well, blah, blah. He's going to do this because if ETH starts going very popular again, he needs to capture the audience again. It's all lies. These are the same people that call others scammers. Like Richard Hart, who's being called a scammer. Richard Hart, yesterday, got confirmation that he beat the SEC again. So the SEC asked for an extension, and they've communicated they're not looking to amend their complaint. Richard, so having cases dismissed by the SEC, or the SEC dropping cases, is one thing. Beating the SEC puts Richard Hart in the top 5%, in the 5% of cases in which the SEC was actually beat. Important distinction. It's not dropping the case, it's getting beat. The guy who was supposed to be a scammer has now very clear regulatory overview on this project. But wait and see for these people to start changing all their tunes as the market moves on. Now, I would like to see more trade news over the week. There's not really that much economic data this week. And I would like to start seeing, I think this week, apparently the mineral deal will happen with Ukraine. So let's hope that we can see some progress on that front as well. By the way, I'm already going to tell you what the media is going to say. First is there's no trade progress. It's all made on top, randomly. There's no strategy, blah, blah, blah. Then, there's trade agreements. But they mean nothing. They will not improve anything. The confidence in the US is lost. Then if the agreements are good, I don't know if they are or not. We have to see them. If the agreements are good and helpful, this is the genius of Scott Bessent. This is the genius of these guys. He did it all. He did everything, despite Trump pushing him down. And then if the economy is doing better than people expect, they will say, of course he inherited a very strong economy by Biden, despite the number one reason why people voted for Trump, as per the exit polls, was the economy and inflation. Write it down. So the narrative will change. If you're a Trump supporter out there, he will never get credit for anything. That's it. If there's peace in Ukraine, he sold Ukraine to the Russians because it's a Russian asset. There's no point. There's no scenario in where this is going to go. Or it was all thanks to Witkoff, he's a magician. There's no winning here. So you need to prepare yourself to read stuff like that. But that's all good. Now, So in summary, a lot of stuff happening. As I've mentioned to you before, all the foreigners are leaving the US forever. This is terrible. Okay, I go on ChatGPT. Tell me how much US Treasuries foreigners hold. Almost $9 trillion. Okay, what was the net selling, because the month of April is still going, what was the net selling of government bonds and T-bills and treasuries? What was the net selling in February and March 2025? Because this is when everything went downhill, right? It was 0.7% of the holdings. What? Because if I turn on the news and on YouTube, it seems that they're selling like half of it. They sold less than 1% in February and March. Maybe they sold, I don't know, 1% in April. So we're talking about the 1.5, 2, maybe 3% of net selling. Is this the big, scandalous change? We'll see. With that, guys, don't forget, like and subscribe. As you guys know, I never ask you for anything. If you do enjoy the content, just drop that like. If you don't drop the like. And I'll catch you in the next one.